Good morning, I'm Candace Bovito for WSDR, and with me today is Genesis Haycrick from Genesis Speaks. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing great this morning.
Good, good.
How about yourself?
I am hanging in there. So what are we talking about today?
Well, today our topic is employee engagement, because this is an area that many organizations and businesses are struggling with.
Okay, so define that for me. Back up a little bit, Genesis. Let's tell the listeners what you do. Why are you here?
Well, I'm a training development specialist, and I help with leading and advising in many different directions when it comes to helping organizations thrive and providing personal growth and development for these organizations. So basically giving them strategies and helping them to identify specific goals that they're looking to achieve within their organization. So in essence, I'm a business empowerment coach, but I also train and advise at the same time.
All right, so keeping that in mind, how do you go about doing that? You said you're going to talk about employment engagement.
Yes.
Right? Okay, so how do we go about doing that? How does an employer go about doing that?
Well, one of the best ways is to hire a professional such as myself to come into an organization and help them to identify specific goals and needs that there may be certain situations that they're going through at the time where they're trying to figure out how can we better ourselves, how can we get people to get more excited about coming into the workplace and being motivated on a daily basis. So for example, motivation versus manipulation, and learning to identify that within an organization, because some of the time when there's individuals in management positions, they can seem as though they are manipulating versus motivating the employees to be more engaged, to be involved, to make decisions and things of that nature. And what that would look like is if an individual were making choices specifically just for themselves or for the organization and not identifying the needs of any of the employees. So employees can feel like they're being manipulated, essentially. So the goal is to help them for me to identify what is being done in terms of how they're being motivated, because different employees are motivated in different ways. So what we can do is surveying, we can go through personality assessments, and we can work to identify what types of personalities are within this organization and what personally do they feel is a motivation for them.
So in essence, it's about talking to the manager, trying to figure out what ways we can actually use to motivate their sales force or their workforce based on the fact that not everybody is in the same mold. So what you're doing is helping a manager sort of tweak their methods to fit an individual.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. And an organization is made up of typically a lot of different types of people and personality types. So you have to be careful not to cluster everybody together as just one specific type. And that's why when coming in as a trainer, you can look at, okay, here's the analytical types, here's the more extroverted, outgoing individuals that are going to be in the sales force. So, once you can identify those personality types and what typically is going to make them tick, and then you can better understand what type of incentives to provide for those employees.
Genesis, that reminds me of children.
Yes.
You have to. Sorry, folks, I had to say it. But it does remind me of your children. You could have 3 or 4 children at home, and the way you handle a certain action by a child may not work for the next one.
Exactly.
So.
If you have 3 kids, they can be all totally different.
That's right. So in the workplace, I could see that would be the same thing. You don't necessarily handle something the same way as you would for Joe over here, as you would for Bob, and Mary don't even touch that subject, we go somewhere else with that one.
Exactly.
Okay. All right, so what else can we do?
Well, there's a level of involvement that I feel is necessary in order for an organization to thrive. So when I'm talking about involvement, I'm talking about specifically, how does the individual feel within this organization? Do they feel like they're included in any of the decisions that are being made? Do they feel like they have a say in anything that's going on, or do they feel like they're just a number? And that is something that I stress so much to management and to the CEOs and the leaders of the organization, is that they have to feel like they have some kind of ownership. Otherwise, what's the point? They come to work and they feel like they're just, this individual that's working for a business that they don't have a piece of.
Well, it gives them, like you said, I think you said, or used the term ownership. So they take ownership of what they're contributing to in their environment, but it also makes them feel like they're part of it, that they're part of the team.
Yes.
Which is what you do, correct?
Yes.
Team building.
Team building and collaboration, yes,
Okay.
and bringing people together.
All right, well, that makes sense to me. When we talk about involvement, how would you make someone feel like they're included in the process? I mean, other than it's a no-brainer, maybe to ask their opinion or do surveys or that kind of thing, but I'm sure you've got some tricks up your sleeve. How else does an employer engage their employees and make them feel involved in that process?
Well, I think one by one, there's a great book out called The 1 Minute Manager, and that is all about being able to have a friendly 1-minute conversation with your fellow employees and to make them to feel appreciated, to make them feel like they're actually doing something. And so when you see something, say something. And as a manager, if you're walking by, tap them on the shoulder and say, hey, that was a really great job that you did in the presentation. Or, hey, I really like what you're doing with your work right now. Those types of things are going to encourage people to be more involved in their work and just want to give back more than what they're doing on a day-to-day basis. Whereas it's important for them to feel like they're constantly growing and they're thriving instead of, plateauing on a daily basis. So that's why we encourage management to, as much as they possibly can, give compliments, be kind, and make it a goal every single week to talk to as many people as they possibly can. When they see something, make sure that they tell that person.
So something as simple as a good morning can spark that conversation and get someone going.
Yes, and it can make all the difference in the world just by talking to that one person, because it can create a ripple effect. It's that pay it forward kind of idea where one person can change an organization.
And do you suggest in an organization, say, any incentives or rewards?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I think that it's wonderful when they put incentives and rewards into place with an organization, because I think that that's part of what creates that motivation. And in terms of creating that motivation, when you provide incentives, it allows individuals to create their own achievement as well.
And Genesis, can you share with me and the listeners, just name a couple of rewards that you've heard of out there, some of the companies that you've worked with. What did they put into place as an incentive or a reward for their workforce?
Candace, something as basic as just bringing somebody up in front of the entire group and saying, this person did this, and we are so proud of them. It works wonders when it comes to just creating that recognition. And, a lot of the time you hear about creating a financial goal, which is, of course, great, vacations and all of that stuff, but sometimes all of that person really needs is just a pat on the back in a form of recognition in front of a group. And I think that says more than anything else. Just like, by personally giving them that extra bit of, feeling of importance, by raising them up and saying, this is what he or she did, and we are so proud of them.
In Genesis, what do you think about this? Are there really places out there, places of employment, where the employees are so disengaged that they're not like fully mentally involved? I mean, is it so bad in some places that you're needed?
Yes, actually there was a 2014 Gallup study where 50% of employees that were basically put into a category as being unengaged, which is horrible. You don't want your employees to be unengaged. And that's basically, they're present, but they're uninspired by what they're doing. So they're not really getting much out of their work day. They're just kind of going through the progressions. And then you have 20%, which are actively disengaged, which is just purely, I'm unhappy with what I'm doing. And that says a lot about what's going on in our organizations and businesses today. So I think that it's absolutely necessary to have that professional development, that individual come in, provide that extra training, and be able to open the eyes of some of the individuals, not only in management, but also in those CEO positions, and then helping them to really learn, what are the best techniques and ways that we can get our employees more engaged. And just by allowing them to have that opportunity to go through the training, it can work wonders in an organization. There's so many different ways and opportunities that there can be positive influence just by going through a little bit of training by the tools that are taken away.
All right. So folks, that's Genesis Haycrick from Genesis Speaks. And if you are interested, if you're sitting out there, you are, say, a business owner you'll go anywhere, won't you, Genesis?
Yes.
I was going to say locally, but that's not true. This woman will go anywhere. If you are a business owner contemplating on how to get your team motivated, or you're a business owner who is going to try a different way here, if you're a little adventurous and you'd like to give this a shot and see what she can do for you, please look her up. It's genesisspeaks.com, correct?
Yes.
All right, genesisspeaks.com, only on WSDR.